Okay, so on this episode of O'Malley's Adventure, I want to talk a little bit about Shelly, the 85 IROC that I've been drag racing. It's been a couple minutes since I had a video posted about either of the cars, and I ran into a guy at Magnolia Dragstrip, and he follows the channel, and he was kind of interested in what was going on, and if I had the wagon down there. Um, the wagon's in storage. Um, when I get into the story about the Camaro, you'll see why I haven't had anything with the wagon. I haven't had time. So I'm going to try and wrap this up as like brief as possible. There's going to be a separate channel for both cars. Um, it's going to be called The Tale of Two Cars, and it's going to be specific to those cars, and that's it. This channel's getting sort of all over the place. Anyway, that being said, let's talk about the Camaro. The Camaro, I took it apart in late March, early April, and I knew that I wanted to replace the heads. My dad and I had been running those camel hump heads since the mid 90s, and one thing that we had always talked about doing was upgrading to aluminum heads. And so I get online. I knew which company I wanted to use. I thought about it for a while. And I'm not going to say this company's name because their business practice sucks. Okay. I'm not saying they have a bad product. I'm saying how they handle their business is less than stellar. I understand parts are hard to come by, but if you know you can't get my parts on time, just tell me you can't, and I'll go someplace else. I mean, if I'm willing to give you my money, show me a little bit of common courtesy and be straight up with me. And here's how this unfolded. Take the car apart. We'll call them Company X. I get Company X on the phone, I ask them about the heads, blah, blah, blah. So a couple days later, I was like, okay, it's time. I'm going to pull the trigger. So I get online. It showed on their website that they had them. So I ordered them. About a half hour later, I get an email saying, um, that we don't have your heads now, but we had started the uh, build of the heads, and that your estimated ship date would be May 19th or 20th. Now remember, this is the first week of April. The car is apart in my garage. I can't park in my spot because the car's apart. I was like, well, late May would be about the time I'd be ready to start racing anyway. The weather's changing, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Meanwhile, I upgraded the torque arm, the lower arms, and the panhard bar. The rear suspension, other than the shocks right now, is complete. Um, I did do some much needed upgrades. It has a drive shaft loop now, and in a sense, the subframes are tied via that cross member. I'll I'll do a separate video on the suspension. It's kind of neat how it's set up. But anyway, so the 20th comes around, and I haven't heard from Company X. So I email them. I'm like, hey, what's up with my heads? And they're saying, well, we still don't have the parts. It could be the end of June before you get your heads. And I was like, okay, that's unacceptable. Um, is there a way that we could work something out where I would get something close, even if I had to pay more money, as far as getting a different set of heads? And they said, not at this time. I said, can I have my money back? They said, sure. I had my money back in, like, I want to say it was a half hour. Um, like I said, if you knew you couldn't get my heads, then just tell me that. Just say, look, we don't know when we're going to get them, and I'll move on to another company. Don't take my money and say it's going to be 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's maybe 2 months or more. So that's when I found this company, and this is Assault Racing Products, and the actual distributor is KMJ, and I believe they're out of Iowa. You might want to check on that to be sure. But anyway, the castings are overseas, which I was kind kind of leery, but the machine work and the assembly is done here in the United States. I had the heads in 3 days, and I was like, cool. Well, when I put the car together, the um, the heads went on fairly well. Hold on, let's see if we got everything looked good. I went with stainless steel 1/6 rockers to increase the lift. That cam is the same from when the engine was originally assembled in the mid 90s, and I did go to a aluminum water pump as well. So the car was going on a little bit of a diet. Um, and at first, I tried a single plane Torquer 2 intake. The intake ports didn't quite line up because they're the bigger size. They're the 1205. If you use like a Felpro gasket, and the Torquer 2 is smaller, much smaller. The intake worked, but it wasn't right, and the car was a lot faster, and but it kept chewing up spark plugs, terrible. And so I was messing around with timing, carburation, and eventually I went to an intake from KMJ, and it's their version of a RPM intake. Edelbrock right now, they're, well, I don't know what at this time what they are, but at that time, getting intakes was a little bit tough. Um, and I wasn't at that point. We're talking about it's May. It's excuse me, it's time to race, and I wasn't waiting. And KMJ gave me a really good deal on that intake. It mounted perfect. It's a dual bolt pattern. You can mount it on Vortec or standard Gen 1 small block Chevy heads. Um, Zero problems with that intake. It's fantastic. I can't see me moving away from that intake anytime soon. Then the big problem started. That I knew the bottom end was kind of gone away. The number 5 cylinder, when I checked cylinder pressure, they were all between 145 and 150, except that cylinder. Number 5 is down to 90 pounds. And I was getting considerable blow by. And I went to different types of breathers, and I went to a catch can, and the crankcase pressure was enough that it pushed the seals off of the valve stems. And I didn't know that was possible until I got it done. And and next thing you know, uh, it was really chewing up plugs. And I was like, oh, this is bad. So what ended up happening was I replaced the power valve in the carburetor, which really fixed a lot of the rich issue. I don't know if you've dealt with the Holley type power valves. It's a Summit carburetor, but it basically uses Holley parts. Power valve had a tear in it. It's just free flowing and dumping gas, and I got that fixed. And then I went on to, let's see, here's the spark plug wires. Of course, some of them laid on the headers for a little bit of time. And here's the tool and the setup I was using for um, replacing the valve stem seals. And I went with blue ones from Airflow Research. And you might be asking why blue. The black ones, if you shine a light through the side of the valve springs, it's a little bit tough to see them because it's a dual spring setup, and the blue sticks out. You can tell if they are down on the seal, or the seal is down on the stem. So that brings us to this past weekend. Again, that's the paraphrase version. We'll probably break more of it down where I'm actually showing you the car, but this is leading up to this past weekend. Anyway, so this past weekend, I get the seals done. Everything's coming around. I launched one of the locks for the keeper across the garage. You couldn't find it. Had to go back up to Summit Racing. And when I was up there, I ended up getting a set of guide plates. Let's see if I got the picture. I don't have it. Maybe we do this? I can show it to you this way. That guide plate right there, you look at the notches in it, that's not supposed to be like that. So I ended up getting guide plates. I got the keepers, got everything put back together. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to wash the underside of the car. I'm going to power spray it. So I got the spray gunk out. You know, I got the foaming kind, hosed everything down. And, you know, I was pretty happy with how things were coming out. So I back in the car into the garage. I'm like, man, there's a lot of steam coming out from underneath the engine compartment. I'm not running a hood right now. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching. I'm like, that's a lot of steam. And that's when this happened. Okay, so I was getting ready to go do my final shakedown and go step on the loud pedal one more time. And we come across this. Let me flip you around. Yep, that's a freeze plug. Might not be racing tomorrow. So, freeze plug springs a leak. It was like, I don't know, 6:30, quarter till 7. I'm like, I can make it. So I run to O'Reilly's, and I bought a couple different types of core plugs. I bought 2 of them that got the rubber seal where you just push them in and tighten them up and they expand. That's what I ended up going with. And it was the core plug right beside the water pump and the fuel pump. And I cleaned it out and I put one in and everything's sealed up. I couldn't believe it. So now it's getting close to, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And I had to make sure, I had to have a little bit of peace of mind at that point. Okay, she's back together. Not seeing any leaks. Headlight covers are off. We're gonna go stomp that loud pedal real quick. So, take it out. Everything's working. Put fresh plugs in it. I went back to the original NGK style plug. I believe it's a heat 7 range or 7 heat range, and ran great. So that takes us down to actually going to Magnolia, and here's some footage from the day down there. Set on the way down through, but be interesting to see what the 60-foot time was. Not sure if we're going to get 1 or 2 time runs, so I don't think that was good enough to justify being in the Gamblers race. So
miles an hour. That can't be right. Shit, felt like I was moving pretty good. What else we got?
Second time trial that we had for the day.
Okay, so we're getting the second time run, and I'm gonna tell you what, this is what going to hell feels like, because it's really hot in this car. I can't stress enough. Exactly how hot it is in here. Stand it up on the converter a little bit, see what happens. Consistent. Hopefully they print my mile per hour and check things out. Get some air in here. Felt pretty good. It's still real sluggish off the line. Gonna have to do a little bit of tuning on the carburetor and get that hammered out. And I think I'm going to go to a bigger squirter and a 50cc pump, see if that helps. It's the cheapest way anyway. And it's the end of the season and I'm tired of buying parts. So let's see what the lady at the shack has to say. Thank you. Okay. 77.3 miles an hour, and we went 199 in the 60 foot, which makes sense. We went 100th slower in the 60 foot. We went 100th slower overall. The one thing that this car does well is put up the same mile per hour, and the race pretty much happens all in the 60 foot. So that was pass number 2, and
Okay.
should be starting to limit.
So after 2 time trials, it was 100th off, and in bracket racing, if you can do that in the street class and you have a fairly decent light, you can be competitive. And so on to the first round.
Okay, so it's dried up a little bit. The air cooled off a little bit, but it's still pretty muggy. So I left the dial in at 892, and if I have to, I'll just back out of it when I get to the big end of the track. Cadillac
the
wagon got
first
out on
pass.
me just a little bit, so I'm gonna assume my light.
Go 94 on a 92 dial after it rained. Yep. After going 894 on a 92 dial, after it rained, it cooled off a little bit. Um, that was for this year. That was really good, and I was pretty stoked. And what I'm noticing is the car with the aluminum water pump, the aluminum heads and intake, and no hood. The car really likes to be in staging and run before it makes its pass. When we had cast iron and a hood, um, if you started the car more than 3 cars back, by the time you launched, you was pretty hot. So, car's a little different with how it's put together now, and I'm starting to figure out a few things as far as how to build heat in the staging lanes. And then the last pass, uh, spoiler alert, uh, um, we popped through the carburetor, and I'm not sure why. Um, the carb is sort of voodoo right now. But anyway, check it out.
Okay, so we're in the second round. I left the dial in the same. I'm dialed in at 892. We're gonna try and get that 60-foot time down just a little bit. Went 2:0 something last time. 198, pretty much the sweet spot. So we'll see how it goes. The dry burnouts on drag radials seems to be the move. I haven't stood up on the tire yet. I've had a little bit of wheel speed coming out of the hole, but nothing too overzealous. Here we go. Shit. Backfire. We're going for it. Oh, way down the page. Went 919. That hurt. Shit. Had a little backfire through the carburetor. That probably come out on the video. Went 919. We're gonna have to get that sorted out. But all in all, I'm gonna call today a win. Made it to the second round, and other than the last pass, I had 3 passes in a row that were within 100th or so, and I didn't break any parts. And lately, that is a growing problem. The car, it needs rebuilt. That's going to happen this winter, but for now, we're going to get it through the end of the season on the engine that's in it, and keep limping it along. But like I said, we're going to call that one a victory for this weekend. It took a while. Well, it took the better part of Friday, Saturday, and this morning to get the car together. No leaks, and won a couple rounds, so that's a win. Check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to have a small video put together. I ran into a... Thank you much. I ran into someone that follows me on YouTube, actually follows the wagon and this car, and been lately because I haven't made anything for the YouTube channel. Um, so I got a little bit of footage and some pictures I'm going to roll in of today, and it'll be a little more in depth, maybe even a little more commentary on my part as far as what happened with the car this week and trying to get it together for today. Till next time, stay sharp, keep a tight shot, group, and rock on. Peace.
So that was the weekend at Magnolia. And like I said, I didn't break anything, which is good. I haven't even discussed yet the fact that I tore up the transmission last month, and I'm going to do a whole thing on that too. Um, with everything going on right now, time is a big problem. I mean, you can't make it. If you need more money, you can make more money. You just can't make more time. Anyway, that's a wrap for this weekend. And if you were the gentleman that I talked to Sunday, um, you were talking about putting a car together, a Corvette that you were thinking about doing some stuff. Contact me in the comments section, or my email is o'malleysadventure@yahoo.com. Shoot me an email. Um, I have some parts you might need if you're wanting to just try something out. Anywho, that's a wrap for this one. There will be more to come. Time is starting to ease up a little bit, and I will be making content not just on Shelly, but on Norma as well. Until next time, stay sharp, keep a tight shot, group, and rock on. Peace.